Hi everyone! Today's video is a follow-up from the Cape Breton trip I took last year. If you saw that video, you may remember that we drove from the Causeway to the Cayley Cottages and Campground in West Mabou. But this time, we decided to go all the way to the Inverness Beach Village Campground. I learned a few new things on this trip which I'll share with you. Like I mentioned in the previous video, you can't park at the Causeway anymore, so you have to go to the parking lot in Troy. But that parking lot is not all that big and it can be difficult to turn a truck and trailer around. So I suggest going 5 kilometers up the highway to a local community center because they have a large parking lot there that circles the building, making it very easy to get in and out, especially if you're going with a group of people and you're going to have multiple vehicles and trailers. Unless you already live in Cape Breton, you're probably taking a road trip to get there. And that's one of the best parts of the trip as far as I'm concerned. Going through Antigonish County towards the Causeway, the scenery was top notch this day. We had beautiful sunny weather, all the rolling hills and valleys. It was quite something. I stopped in at the Ald's Cove Irving Big Stop because I needed a few supplies for the weekend that I forgot to pick up in town before I left. Then I got back on the highway, went across the Causeway, and saw that great big Welcome to Cape Breton sign. Then I took a left and headed up towards Troy. And like I mentioned earlier, the parking lot in there is just off the highway, just a few minutes ride. And when I got to the parking lot and I started offloading my machine, I ran into some other people that had the same idea that we did. They were already there ahead of us, just about to get on the trail. They came up to start talking to me, and they mentioned that they saw my video, the previous one that I did on our Cape Breton trip, and that's why they were there, because they wanted to come and do this trip because of that. I thought that was pretty cool. And in case you're wondering, we got on the trail here at about 10 to 12, just before noon. This Cayley Coastal Trail is a multi-use trail, so you're going to see ATVers, you're going to see people on bicycles, you're going to see pedestrians, so keep that in mind when you're going on the trail. We've ran into a few of those, and every time we did, we slowed right down because these machines kick up so much dust very easily, so no one wants to get a face full of dust. So if you see pedestrians or cyclists, make sure you slow down, you know, to almost a crawl until you're well past them. Oh, look at that. Somebody must live close by. Got themselves a nice little setup here. The beautiful coastal lands that you see along here is just, it's really nice. You have to see it in person. This is not a challenging route by any means. I mean, you can see right now the trail. It's an old rail bed that's, like I mentioned before, multi-use. So it's set up for cyclists and pedestrians too. So it's pretty easy riding. There's nothing really challenging here at all. Some of these barriers are really tight together. My commander's about 62.5 inches wide, and some of these didn't give me much room more than that to get through. This is the spot where I lost my drone last year, right under this bridge. Mitchell and Jeff had pretty decent luck here at this spot, catching a few good-sized fish. They ended up throwing them back though, and didn't keep them. They have to be something like 25 inches here, and the ones they had were maybe about 17 to 20. So when we finally got to Inverness here, let me zoom in on the map. This blue trail is the rail bed and some of our tracks that we made going up to the Inverness Beach campground where we spent the night. But just before you get there, you're going to come out to a paved road here, and if you take a left, it's a third of a mile. It's like 300 meters. You can drive down here, and there's a parking lot that'll take you to the beach, Inverness Beach, and there's a really nice boardwalk all along here too that you can check out. So we get out for a few minutes and walked up and down the boardwalk here for a bit, took a few pictures, and you know, the nice thing about this beach is it extends up past where we spent the night at the campground. So we left the beach parking lot, we drove up the red trail there to get to the blue one, and we followed that over to the campground, which only took us a few minutes. The cabins were pretty nice. They were reasonably priced, and the best part, they were almost right on the water. The cabins come with little kitchenettes, but we opted to cook outside, mostly because the weather was so nice. Then Jeff and Mitchell went and checked out the beach, and I threw the drone up for a few minutes. It was kind of a last-minute trip, and we were planning on doing some tenting at the campground, but it turns out that the campground wasn't open for tents until July, so we ended up renting a cabin. Luckily, they still had one available. And it's nice here. They have a few campfire spots set up out away from the cottages a little bit towards the edge of the embankments here over the water. The next morning, when we made our way back, you could tell here in the background it was a bit overcast compared to the day before, which was fine. The temperature was still nice, and it's actually a little nicer, I find, sometimes if you're ATVing when it's a bit overcast, because these machines throw out a lot of heat, and if you get the sun beating straight in on you on these, can be a little much sometimes. We came across that same little area that we saw last year, so we had to stop in again, of course, especially since it... The Juicy Apple Bridge was a nice place to stop for a break along the trail. They even had a little bench over here on the side of the trail that you could sit and just watch the water if you wanted to. I don't know who comes up with the names of the bridges or if they have any special meanings, but if you know, maybe put a comment in the comment section below. I'd like to know. This was a really fun, short trip. I mean, we went up, we spent a day going up to Inverness and then a day going back towards the causeway. I want to go back in the fall, maybe in October when all the leaves are really bright and red. And I'd like to go do this again, but keep going further. Spend another day going up to maybe Shetty Camp, Wreck Cove, and then making a big loop out of it and coming back and try to divide it up and make it maybe a 3 or 4 day trip. We stopped again at this bridge on our way back, and Jeff and Mitchell again took out their fishing rods to see what they could catch. Another group of ATVers came along and we got to talking with them for a few minutes, and it turns out they saw my Cape Breton video that I had put out from last year, and that's the reason they were up here doing it, and they recognized my side-by-side from the video and came up to talk to us. And they threw a few hooks in the water, and man, they were lucky. It seemed like every line they were throwing in, they were catching a fish.
Way to go, Boo! I want my repeller. I'm coming down.
Oh, wow!
Something I dreamed up.
Yeah,
that's
nice. He screwed it out of it.
I told you I kept smelling them fast with this thing.
How come you didn't let me reel it in? I would have reeled it in for you. I'm letting you drive.
You'd have lost it. Here,
Yeah, I lost it.
That's
a pretty good size.
Wow, Steven,
That's a nice fish thing.
Oh, awesome. That doesn't count. They're the best one. I don't care. The best thing is you can get them right here and they fall off.
Dad, Steven, I'm going to need 2 bags of full positive.
I got you covered, man.
2 bags of old positive. Get on it. Phone in 911.
413, sir.
I got my finger looking at the blood I'm losing.
I should get my pliers.
Isn't it worth it though, eh?
What?
Isn't
Deadly.
it worth it?
No, but I got a pair of pliers in the bike that I should have took down me.
What do you want me to throw them down at you?
I'm sorry.
Those guys were a riot. I was glad they came by and stopped where we were, so we had a chance to chat with them for a few minutes. They're very nice people. And that's it for this video, and thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you liked what you saw, please consider clicking the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already. Be safe out there.